I may or may not have just gotten video behind the scenes of us jamming out.
My air guitar was on fire. Can you see it?
It was amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
Lie. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are a week late. My co-host over here was a little under the weather last week, but we were sending a good vibes your way, and I'm glad that you're feeling better today and ready to tackle our season 2 finale.
Oh, thank you for your prayers. They were answered. I'm fine. Just a little minor setback, but I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm so glad to hear it. And for any of you that might be new here right now, you're watching Beyond 2D. This is a season 2 finale. I'm one of your hosts, Jessica Dugas, the creator of the Breakthrough Show Network, and this is my fabulous co-host.
I'm the retired Sergeant First Class Farron Dozier, the other D in the Beyond 2D for sure.
That's it. You come here, you get 2 Ds for the price of one. 2 Ds for the price of one. I'm really excited and a little bit nervous about this episode because typically, you know, Farron and I take topics and we spread them out over 4 weeks. Yeah. But this particular topic that we're going to talk about tonight has come up several times in the last 2 seasons, and I really thought that it's time to address it. And I don't know how you feel about it, Farron, but like I think as that one beautiful passage in the Bible tells us, there's a time for everything under the sun. And I'm not really sure that this topic needed to be 4 weeks of being drawn out, because I think we feel similarly about it, and we're going to have a discussion tonight about it, which is expectations. We're going to talk about expectations, and then you got to stay around because at the end we're also going to go over our thoughts about the other topics that we covered this season. Very good topics. We talked about
how we
grief.
have grown.
Yeah, we talked about grief, forgiveness, compassion, resilience, and perseverance this season. There were some big ones.
Those were good. All good.
That's
all
it.
Good.
That's it. Brittany. Thank you for being here. We love you. We love you so much.
Brittany.
We're so glad you're here.
This is a family show. I mean, same thing. I guess it all goes together, right?
Okay. Well, listen. And she was saying before that she's so ready for the finale. It's going to be so good today, but she's also sad that she'll have to wait until next season for the next one. But
I think that's why I think my nervousness wasn't really nervous. It was more like some sadness because this is it. Yeah. Make no mistakes.
Yeah. Man, I was listening to that earlier. What a good song that was. Anyway, we're not talking about music tonight. So listen, expectations. Shall we start as we always do?
We shall.
There it is. Homeschool teacher Jessica is here, and we're talking about the word expectation. We'll start there. It's a noun. Expectation, funny enough, we gotta love dictionary.com, starting us off with the act or state of expecting. Thank you so much for not telling us a damn thing.
Thank you.
But as you move on in the explanation, the act or state of looking forward or anticipating, a prospect of future good or profit, the degree of probability that something will occur. So that's the textbook, dictionary.com. And I think I will start by saying that for me, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this so badly is because throughout the personal development and spiritual development communities on social media, I see this word expectation demonized so badly
Mm.
as it being like, don't have it or you will die. like really, truly that kind of force and as I said, demonization of that word. And I think it's unnecessary for a lot of reasons. I've written down some of those today, but I'll let you give your first thoughts about this definition here.
I mean, for me, when we talked about this topic, it was so important for me to express myself in this conversation because there are also unspoken expectations, right? And so a lot of the topics that we've covered in season 1 and even this season here as it ends, sometimes expectations are even behind or included in those topics, right? And so I want people to know at the end of the day that there are unspoken expectations that we have, that we live from, that we don't say out loud, that we think from, but also that you can negotiate expectations too. So that's why I was excited about this topic for me, because I've been through that process for myself, um, and it was actually freeing to know that you don't have to weaponize expectations, that they're not bad or good. It's all from the context or the color of your life that you look at life from. So this definition, as you shared, it's like we have to break that down, like almost for me, word by word in this definition, because the way that they have it listed here is expectations in all of that,
Mm.
right? In the act or state of looking, like the way our if you really understand how your brain operates, you would find so much peace in life, because a lot of it is just brain function
Mm.
designed to survive, and the information that we put in it, we're living
Right,
from that information that we put in that brain, right?
right.
And so if you understand expectations and the act and the state of, it's like it's an act, the state of, like we treat each other like we're so fixed objects that
Mm.
we can't even be free to just be with one another. Like, oh, you're a chair, so I'm going to treat you like a chair, and I expect you to act like a chair, and that's the only way you can act. And so don't you change, chair, because you're a chair. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm Farron, and I can learn and grow. And I'm like, no, like, but that's how we talk, and that's how we view life. And so that definition, even though it's a little bit wordy, it's still like a lot in that, if I
Yeah.
can say it that way.
Yeah. I think I go back to a phrase that you use often on the show, and that is about being versus doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I've had to examine for myself as we knew we were going to talk about this topic is if if I have expectations eventually, or if I am being expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think in this case that this is a case that I want to be being, because as you mentioned, we as humans are multidimensional, ever growing and evolving, whether you like it or not, it's happening,
Mm-hmm.
individuals. And so when we don't give that space for each other to bloom and grow, then we run into some problems, run into some challenges. And I think another thing that you were touching on specifically was with communication. That's the heart of this for me,
Mm-hmm.
these topics. um if I may, I would like to bring up a book.
Wait. Let me.
Okay, go back.
I want to finish. I want to finish this before you take it off the screen,
Okay, all
so
right.
people. So if you look at the definition, the act or state of looking forward or anticipating.
Hmm.
If you understand what it is to be a human being, anxiety,
Mm.
the future of uncertainty, like, do you understand that you can live so far in the future and expect and you have this expectation of how it should turn out, and it don't turn out that way? that you're living that far in the future that you experience anxiety today because your brain is already out expecting, anticipating something to happen that you have no control over, but you think that we do. And it's like, that's why I said this definition is so off the chart, because
how much were we even seeing that prior to last week?
I'm
How much,
saying,
and continuing to see that today.
and saying,
Everybody getting so wrapped up in stuff that hasn't even happened yet
That is
and may not.
and may not. And that literally, when I, at this work at 14 years, that was one of the things I discovered early on, is that I lived into the future of uncertainty, and I had so much anxiety today. And it was like, people hurt themselves, people drink, people do drugs and do all this stuff to try to silence that chatter because we're so far in the future. And I don't say you have to, but you have to get a better understanding of yourself in some aspect, in some education, in some mental health, whatever that is. Because when you understand how your brain functions and that voice is not you, you find a level of peace. You can find a level of peace in these conversations.
Right.
So, okay.
Anything else you want to say about that?
Let me see. A prospect of future good profit, degree of probability. Oh, yeah. And we talk about the probability. Like, sometimes we live in a probable, almost certain future, I learned. And you could get stuck in a probable, almost certain future because it's probably going to happen like this. Because again, where is it coming from? Either a past experience or you live into that future of anticipating. And so it's probably not going to go well. And then that's where you get to live from.
You know what I just noticed, though?
What?
You just skimmed right over that second part that I feel is so important.
Which part?
A prospect of future good.
Ooh.
A prospect of future good. I think so much of expectation of the path that we're going as an individual, as a community, as a society, as a world, as a universe, whatever, is dependent on how we view the world. It's dependent on the choice we make of whether we want to assume or expect the good in things or people. And I think when we automatically go to this place of doom and gloom and everything is going to be horrible, that's when a lot of problems come in. But then also, no matter whether we expect good, bad, or indifferent from a situation, the real problem or challenge goes into not the expectation itself, but our attachment to the outcome of it. I don't think that it is an inherently bad thing. In fact, I would argue here today that expectation and assumption is a natural response for us as humans. But and it's good. It's good. I mean, think about a time when you really wanted something. You really wanted something in your life and you're just wrapped up in it. Have you ever done that before? Like you want it so bad you can feel it and it's coming and it's amazing, and then you didn't get it.
Like my dad showing up.
Yeah. Because it's not the expectation or the assumption that's the problem. The problem is wrapping ourselves up and getting stuck if it doesn't come true, we get stuck in that, and then things go awry because we're stuck in, well, it didn't happen and now I'm going to be mad, or now I'm never going to do it again, or have all of those trauma responses.
I'm not going to make a decision anymore. No more decisions.
Not being like, this has to happen or my life is over.
Yeah. That part you said in the classes that I've taken, it is hard for human beings to keep it in empowering context. It's hard. It's hard for us to keep an empowering context when we have circumstances and concerns and worries and
Right.
life happening. How do you keep an empowering context in the midst of a circumstance?
Right.
It's
It it
always
takes
who you get to be.
I mean, in my own experience, I can only speak for myself. It takes tremendous discipline and hard choices.
And new
Things that
thoughts.
I make choices and sit there and go, "Oh, I don't know if I should have done that." Like for the longest time, you know?
And it's we haven't done the segment on choices and decisions, huh?
No, but I have a feeling,
I have a
season
feeling
3
that's
is
season
coming.
3. We just dropped season 3, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, we'll leave that one for later. But yeah, that's what I learned. It's hard for us as people to keep an empowering context when it's up against circumstances and struggles and situations and concerns and worries. They're naturally upset. What'd she say?
She said she used to be so attached to the outcome. It's still a struggle at times. And I've mentioned this on the show before, about one of my favorite movies, Anne of Green Gables. And there's one quote that I've mentioned on the show before that I will mention again because it's so perfect. And she says, I can't help but flying upon the wings of anticipation. It almost pays for the thud. It's one of my favorite quotes, literally, of all time, because it's so true. It feels so good to get wrapped up in it, guys. It feels so good to be like, I'm gonna spin this slot machine and I'm gonna be a millionaire. Like it feels so good. And then when you spin it and realize your balance is zero, then we come crashing down and it's so horrible,
And
and so we have to work on that crashing. It's the
yeah.
crashing part.
And I think for me, it's the crashing when it comes to another human being, because that's where the disappointment and us and other people come into play. And that's where it gets real muddy because of the disappointment in other human beings. The activity of life, yeah, we could make it through that, and maybe I got another check come in later. I got to go get a loan or something. But when you get disappointed in another human being, and if you allow yourself to experience that feeling of what it feels like to be disappointed in someone, imagine how we feel about ourselves when we're
Oof.
disappointed in ourselves.
Yeah.
And then you live from that disappointment of myself of, I messed up again. Dang. I expected you to pick better. I expected you to pick a better decision, man. Like, and we talk to ourselves like that.
That's what I was going one of the things I was going to ask you, because I recognized for me that um a lot of my expectations for others was coming from a very high expectation of myself. I think even after first realizing that, I still used it as an excuse for a little while of going like, well, I wouldn't hold anybody to a space that I wouldn't hold myself, blah blah blah. But I think instead, in more recently, really in the last year, it has given me the space to be like, man, we really could serve to be more gentle with ourselves and with other people, instead of having set I mean, I can't even reach these expectations I make for myself. So how can I expect others to do that?
You can, and mixed with all these topics that we've had in season 1 and season 2, a lot of times we use words like trust and confidence. But if I tell the truth, I don't trust myself 100%. If I tell the truth, I don't have 100% confidence in myself. But yeah, I expect that from other people. I expect to be able to trust you, even though I don't trust myself 100%. I expect to have confidence in you when I don't really have confidence in myself. So the self-awareness, the self-discovery, the beyond 2D, it's really pointing back to us first. I believe that we agree that this show is really about us. That's why we share our perspectives. And then when you do that, you can hear other people's like, oh my goodness, that's what that is. Oh yeah, that's what that looks like. And now you can look in your own life based off of these conversations from our season and challenge your own perspective, your own perception, your own interpretation, and realize that you're not by yourself. And even as a black male and a white-skinned woman, we're not different. We're not different. And I love this show about that because they see two of us and like, what are y'all talking about? And it's like, oh shoot, they deep. Oh yeah.
We're having big boy and girl conversations over here, you know?
And so when you have all these, like you said, you got to figure out where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And and we know where they're coming from if we tell the truth. If we tell the truth to ourselves first, we know where they're coming from.
Yeah. Well, what I want to do really quick, because this is a longer episode this evening, we're going to take a quick break.
Oh, let's go.
When we come back, I'm going to share. I want to talk about kind of where some of this comes from. This expecting and assuming thing comes from. I'm going to talk about a certain book that I promised y'all that I would talk about this evening, and then we'll take one more break and we'll talk about the rest of the season. But don't go anywhere because we have lots more to come.
Let me get my air guitar. We playing that. Air guitar.
We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org.
Welcome back to Beyond 2D. We are talking right in the middle of a beautiful conversation about expectations.
Is it
We're
beautiful?
so glad you're here.
Is it beautiful?
It is. It's very beautiful, and we're so glad you're here.
Oh, man.
I'm so glad you just asked that in the comments, Miss Nancy, because we're going there right now.
No, we're not, Nancy. What are you doing, Nancy?
We're going there.
What did you
there.
ask?
Okay. So, Nancy asked, will we be discussing the 4 agreements this evening? And I'm so excited that you asked that, Nancy, because I am here to make wishes come true. Okay. This in itself is why I have been so yearning to have this conversation. I see I've been working in the personal and spiritual development spaces since about 2016-ish. And during that period of time, I mean, that's 8 years, that's a good span of time. Anytime I have brought up the topic of expectations, someone, anyone, makes the comment, "Oh, that's bad because the 4 agreements." Or, "Have you read the 4 agreements, though?" Or, "Let's talk about the 4 agreements." I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna give you uh, the truth right now, and that's that I have not and will not read that book. That being said, I almost read it in preparation for this show. However, the reason why I haven't read it is because I have seen, as I said, in the last 8 years, so much commentary about it. I understand what's in the book. I've read the cliff notes, so to speak. I don't feel it's necessary for me to read it word for word. And part of the reason why is because as we were discussing before the break, um, I have seen folks in the spiritual development community use this book as a way to demonize the very human processes that we experience, like expectations, emotions, and assumption. And though the author of that book explains the concepts of these things in very specific contexts, we know humans. We know what humans do. Humans like to take things and run with them, making blanket statements without fully understanding or even integrating them into their own lives. For example, the book encourages people to not assume or not to take things personally, but without emphasizing the importance of fostering open, honest communications, these principles can be applied in very, very harmful ways. So I don't, it disturbs me to observe people treating the 4 agreements almost like scripture, adopting it rigidly without exploring it for themselves, the deeply human experiences that we have. It's not realistic or compassionate to simply tell people to rid themselves of expectations or to stop assuming things, especially when those reactions often stem from real trauma that we've experienced or lived experiences. When we just go, stop assuming, stop expecting, without having those very real and vulnerable conversations, we're missing out. We're missing out on an opportunity to grow and develop, not just individually, but together in our relationships. So that's where I'm at with that with that book. Yeah, not a so it's not necessarily the book, it's how it's being used as a weapon within the personal and spiritual communities.
So let's just go there. Since we are on this topic, it's religion, religious conversations are weaponized. They're used in
Mm.
all of these world systems. They're weaponized. We use the religious context to justify how we treat people.
Mm.
We use religion context to talk about different subjects mixed in with the spiritual aspect of it and what it says in plain language versus what I make it mean about my religious belief. And so I found my peace in this conversation just through my own studying and research and understanding that even this philosophy that this world is created off of, this world systems, the democratic system, it's a Greek philosophy. It's from Aristotle and the other cat who said, "Oh, the gods said that this is what leadership looks like." It's the gods that said that you're the serving class, that this is what the serving class looks like. And it's so integrated in our DNA that we live from those like it's the truth.
Mm.
And so we use religion, we use Christianity, we use these terms And the downside of it is you're using it up against people. It goes back to my conversation. You're using this conversation up against another human being before you use it up against yourself first. And we make people wrong based off our opinion. But my opinion is not the truth. My opinion is just Farron's truth.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to live by my truth and stand by it, I have to be able to listen to what Jessica's truth is. But we don't do that. We want to, but then we go back to the expectations of the diminished experience of ourselves and the upsets and all that comes with expectations. And then we live from the upset of that. Not everybody, but some people.
Right.
But it only takes one expectation. And if it's a negative expectation and you're living into the future of where I can't even make another decision today because I can't control the outcome and I expect it to go this way. I expect you to behave this way. I expect you to do this. Like, that's not realistic. And some of those books are designed and written that you still get left with a self-blame about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then this whole narcissistic conversation evolves into this is you're a narcissist and you this and you're gaslighting me and then we got all these other words that we create around it to describe how I really feel about myself. It's hurting us as a people.
Nancy said, going along with some of what you said, she personally had bought the book. It waited 4 to 5 years to be read. And she too agrees. Many quote it like Bible scripture. It has pieces that she can work with, but she does feel like there's more to it. And that's really what it's about for me. That's why I won't read it, because I feel like, going back to what you're saying, that conversation that I'm having with myself is much more important to figure out, okay, where are things coming from? But then also, as a second piece to that, we don't learn about other people and where they're coming from and why they have these expectations and assumptions without one very important thing. And that's communication. We have to commit if we want to, if we have, I mean, I'm going to assume if you're hanging out in communities that are based on spiritual and personal development, that you have some sort of desire to better yourself or better the world, right? So if you want to commit to that, then we have to also commit to having conversations and sometimes difficult communication, and seeing where this stuff is coming from people. Where is it coming from? What experience or fear is driving these expectations and assumptions? And how can we better understand each other through open dialogue? But we have to commit to that, or it's, we're just going to continue the process of assuming and expecting.
Again, today for myself, and I teach this at church, my opinion is not the truth. We have opinions about so much about life. And sometimes those opinions are influenced by negative situations. Sometimes they're influenced to keep us safe from other environments. Don't play with them because I don't do this, don't. And then so you grow up with that in the back of your mind because that's what you've been taught. But yet you want to live and be friends and hang and be, just be free. But you have these things that we've been taught by our environment, sometimes our parents, our grandparents, our uncles, our friends. And that stuff, it just gets so corrupted in our minds. And then we live from that. And so for me, I had to figure out, literally, am I gonna allow my soul to lead my life, or am I gonna allow my spirit? And if I say that I'm a spiritual being first, then I got to feed my spirit. And then what am I going to feed my spirit? Because I want that information to guide my soul and my body.
Right.
But either way, if you don't want to go spiritual, you got to go with what's in your heart. And sometimes you have to have tools and conversations to challenge your beliefs.
Mm. And that's not committing to having, I think this is a real fear for people. I think a lot of times folks, and I think if I really dig into maybe like 15, 20 years ago, it was similar with me, where you have this fear if you commit to having a conversation with someone or communicating with someone that thinks or believes differently from you, that that somehow threatens your
Mhm.
own beliefs or thoughts or opinions. And I think maybe we would both agree that it doesn't unless you let it. Like it, you have good, bad, or indifferent. If somebody shares a piece of their life with you, their own thoughts, opinion, their own truth, whatever, however you want to frame it, if they share that with you, if it's something that you need to shift, then you still have to allow that shift to occur. If it's something that you don't need to shift to, you still have to allow that or allow or not allow that shift to occur. So there is nothing dangerous about having a conversation with someone. There's no fear to be had there unless you allow that fear to be. Like
Mhm.
it just, it that's how that I mean, I used to just be afraid to talk to people who believe differently than me because I don't know, I just felt like, well, I don't know how to respond and I'm going to have to stand behind my own beliefs and all of these other things. But ultimately there's nothing to be afraid of because you don't have to change unless you allow yourself to change.
You know, I'm gonna drop this for season 3.
Uh-oh.
This is the pre.
Uh-oh.
This is the pre. This is the prequel
Oh,
of
this is
season
free.
3. This
This
is
is a
free.
freebie.
This is
Okay.
a freebie for season 3. When you understand decisions and choices,
Mm,
not only from making them, but for the reasons why we make them,
mm,
for the past reasons, the past, the future of uncertainty, and we make these decisions, and we don't realize that the decisions for a reason, you could be left defending the reason after the decision doesn't go the way that you think it should expect it to go. So if you make a decision in language, excuse me, you emotionally kill off anything else that's possible when you make a decision.
mm.
And you don't believe me, just look at the word decide and what it derives from. Homicide, genocide, suicide, pesticide, all those kill off. So when we make decisions based off of reasons, we kill off the freedom to make another choice or decision because of the reason why I made the decision, because I'm expecting it to turn out a particular way. And if it doesn't, then oh my gosh, I done messed up again. And then it's like, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. We hear people describe how they feel in their decision-making process.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, if we tell the truth, it's based off of a reason. And imagine you can live your life from no reason at all
Mm.
and just choose it. And if it doesn't work, go figure out what you did or didn't do, tell the truth to yourself, be honest, and then figure it out and go do it again. But because we have these expectations and these past experiences and the future that we can't control, but we want to control, and this all in language, it's like, well, I'm gonna make a decision because I like this. And then I turned out not liking that. Then Jessica, then I got to come back and then I got to tell you, guess what? I made a bad decision, and this is
Yeah,
the outcome.
what are you making it mean? What are you making that expectation or decision or choice or
I'm a
assumption or
bad person.
visualization? What are you making it mean about you?
I'm wrong, and I'm a bad person, and all the negative that comes that I already think about myself comes out, and then I have to own that. And that's the greatest thing that I got from all of my personal development is that I learned to take responsibility for my behavior and my actions. And yes, there was damage control, and it felt weird to say, I thought this for 20 years, and this is not exactly what it was. and then I gotta maybe share that with somebody that, hey, guess what? I've been thinking this was this way for all these years, and guess what? It's not that. It takes a different person to own something that you've maybe been wrong your whole life about.
Mm.
And I think that's the biggest fear, because if I tell you the truth, then you're not going to be my friend. You're not going to want to talk to me. And I've made some bad decisions in my life, and you might not want to make some new decisions with me because of my, like, it's so many layers to that conversation. And having just a book about 4 agreements is only 4.
It needs to just be one big agreement with yourself. Calm down.
Calm down. But like I said, there's so many layers to it, but we're going to talk about in the future episodes what I learned about decisions and choices and how powerful they are, because everything we're talking about, we're speaking it out of our mouth.
Right.
And then you add morals, you add all these other things to the ingredients of expectations, and well, you're not morally like I am, so I can't talk to you because we don't have the same morals. But guess what? Do we all have the same morals, really? Some of our environments taught us different ways to react to life. It's not, my family's not wrong for how they taught me to respond to life, because that's the best that they knew.
That's one of the things I think that you know, as we talk about expecting people to be a certain way, over the last couple of weeks since the election, we've seen a lot of willingness to just cut people out. To just, we're not having Thanksgiving together. We're not doing the rest of life together. We just going to shut everybody out. Now, I'll start by saying, whatever choices you make, that's your choice. However, we're always going to be met with people who don't agree with us. And I think as we examine this situation further, where we're seeing separations in families and between friends, is we're seeing a lot of what you're talking about. Because if you find out that someone that you have loved deeply for a lot of your life believes in something that you believe, and I'm saying you believe because a lot of you haven't even been willing to have the conversation about it.
Exactly.
Okay. You believe that they believe differently than you morally on all kinds of levels. And so then subconsciously, what does that say about you that you loved that person? What are you making their beliefs mean about you? This is why we can't sit down and open a can of cranberry sauce.
Yep. Because your morals are different.
But there's so much unwillingness right now to have a conversation, to, again, not to put fear and all of that aside, that by hearing them out that it's somehow going to change you, because that's not truth. That's not fact. That's you just making a choice.
Our opinions, I'm gonna keep preaching that until I'm off this planet. Our opinions get in the way. And if you understand that in the presence of I'm right and you're wrong, I agree, we disagree, and it's my opinion in there, then there's no love present. That's what you pointed to. There's no experience of love in the midst of I'm right and you're wrong. There's no experience of love when that's good and this is bad. There's no love present. And we have to realize that expectations are connected to our experience of life, not the activity only. It's connected to your feelings and emotions of life. But just like your opinion is attached to that too. Because we don't want to look bad. I will lie to look good, even though I know I'm wrong. And when I discovered that I would lie just to be accepted, I was like, how ridiculous is that? I've been pretending all these years that I can't even be myself. I have to lie to be. I have to lie to just fit in.
See, and I think unfortunately, a lot of people have just arrived at that point. They've arrived at that point because they're seeing so much of the unwillingness, separation, lack of communication, cutting people off, whatever, that now they're afraid if they do speak up, if they do share their truth, that they're going to lose the people that
Exactly.
they love.
Exactly.
So how are we creating? I mean, one of the things we talk about on this show a lot is leadership. How are we creating a space as leaders where people can feel free to be themselves, to show us who they really are, if we're not even allowing them to be their real self, be without fear, without fear?
It's exhausting. That's why mental health is such a key for us, because it's exhausting to pretend like everything is okay. It's exhausting. It's
Yes.
exhausting mentally, physically. You're drained. And what is it costing you? Your love and affinity, your health, your well-being, your connection. For you to even feel whole and complete, you can't pretend and be whole and complete at the same time. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
But we don't want to be judged. I mean, it goes back to my guy CW. We don't want to be judged. We want to be included. I'll lie to be included. I'll lie to hang out. I will lie to be included. I'll pretend as long as I can to be included. And then when I can't do it anymore, I'm out. But guess what? We're not happy when we're out. We're not happy pretending. And so we beat ourselves up silently.
I am so excited that there is one part of the upcoming documentary, The Friendship Paradox, where Caldwell mentions being included
Mm-hmm.
and how important that is to us. And imagine what people on both sides of the aisle are experiencing right now, going into the holiday season, feeling like they're just cut off and not included anymore.
Like I don't belong in my own family because of my views. But families weaponize that. You better not play with them or I'm gonna disown you.
Yep.
Like I will I mean, oh my gosh. Can you imagine walking around growing up afraid to talk to your parents because you got friends who are black or Mexican or white and they told you better not talk to them or I'm gonna disown
Isn't that
you?
interesting that we have been here before?
It's not brand new. There's nothing new under the sun.
Guys,
but we don't
just
look at that. We don't look
think
at the
about that.
experience, how that feels. Can you imagine how that feels for a person to grow up in an environment like that? I can't imagine that feeling good.
Yeah.
And then you got to pretend.
Yep. First of all, Nancy, I do both. I open the can of cranberries and I make cranberry sauce.
Hey, she
That's
better know,
the real
Nancy.
argument here.
You better know, Nancy. What is it? Is that Stater Brothers? Is that Stater Brothers cranberry sauce? Or is that Mama's cranberry sauce, baby? I do both. I'll do both. I don't care about if it's in a can or not. I don't care. It's cranberry sauce.
I love me some cranberry sauce.
It don't matter where it came from.
Okay. Love some cranberry sauce. And I have to give a shout out. I know that she has her Instagram on private right now. But remind me to send this to you later. Megan McGlover, that has been on the Breakthrough Show, whom she is also up for our Journey So Far award, for our award ceremony coming up in December. She was on the show. She's a tell it like it is person, and she has a very funny and true real on Instagram right now. And again, I think it might be private, but just trust me on this. And she just tells everybody, she says, I want you to sit down, get yourself some cranberry sauce, some turkey, and shut up. And it is the best thing I have ever seen in my whole life because it's true.
I would shut up. I would shut up.
Just eat something.
I'd be like, can I get some more
So
cranberries?
listen, we're going to take another quick break. We're going to take a look at the teaser for the friendship paradox. And I want to share with you when we get back, we actually have a section in the documentary about expectations in regards to friendship. And I want to tell you, give you a little my own perspective about that when we come back here for Ron's thoughts, of course.
That. Yes, we got to negotiate.
And then we'll recap the season. So don't go anywhere. We got lots more to come.
Oh my.
We'll be right back after this.
On April 4th, I was 90 years old, grandson of slaves. My parents were first generation free. A long time ago, I embraced the definition of love. Love is the experience of well-being. And a friend is one who mutually shares that experience of well-being with you, which opens up almost infinite creative possibilities.
I know I may be a little bit biased, but I can't think of a better time for this, honestly. I've been putting the last finishing touches on this documentary over the last couple of days. It will be officially done on Friday.
Done.
A week out from the premiere date. And I have been emotional on more than one occasion. And one of the things that inspired me before sitting down to start the documentary was, again, referring to my experience in working in the personal and spiritual development communities on social media. When you talk about expectations in regard to friendship, the real quick off the cuff answer that you get from the majority of people is, I don't have any. Do you have expectations? No. And so this happened. I'm going to give you guys a little behind the scenes right now. This happened a few times as I was interviewing people for the documentary. And when they would say that, I do what I do best. And I said, so if the person was then mean to you, that would be okay with you? So if the person never returned your phone calls, was kind of, maybe you observed them doing mean things to other people. Maybe they talked to you in a way that you wouldn't even allow your mama to talk to you. That would all be okay with you? And all of them responded with, well, no, that would not be okay. So then my response is, so then would it be safe to say that you do have expectations, that perhaps you expect a friend to be kind? Perhaps you expect a friend to return your phone calls. Perhaps you expect some sort of reciprocity within your relationship. Because I think it's a great ideal to go, I don't expect anything. I just go with the flow. But that's a wonderful ideal. However, I don't buy it. I don't buy it because I don't think most of us who have, again, going back to personal development, who have done that work to love ourselves, to become our own friends, to respect ourselves, we wouldn't allow a level of disrespect to happen to us that we weren't giving to ourselves, which is also something that we talk about in the documentary. So I was really, once we got into the conversation and hearing some of these things, it was actually really wonderful. And you'll hear it when the documentary comes out, to hear, hey, no, you know what? I really do value reciprocity. I really do expect kindness from people. And it's probably one of my favorite, most refreshing parts of the entire 2.5 hour-ish film. And that's saying something.
Ish? What's the ish? 2 hours and 45 minutes? Is that 2 hours and 50 minutes?
Because
2 hours and 55
I'm
minutes?
working on that outro right now. And
Oh,
you know,
got you. Yeah, true.
so do you remember me asking you about that when they had the interview for the documentary?
I don't remember the expectation conversation. Actually, I don't.
I know you answered it.
I'm Woo! Did I? Did I? Did
You
you really
did.
answer that? Did you answer
You
that
did.
question? Yeah, we answered. Okay, we answered that. I'm talking to myself about
Roll the
myself.
tape. No.
Action.
I should have done that though. Man, that would have been great.
I would have been
Hindsight.
sweating bullets right now. No, but I mean, like you said, it's at the end of the day, I'm gonna go back. We gotta come to some agreement on the basics of this. At the end of the day, it's all in language. And what my expectations are and what the next person's expectations are totally different. They can be totally on opposite ends of the spectrum. None of us are wrong about what we expect. But the expectations that I put on myself might be where I want to look first before I project that out on somebody else. Because again, my expectations could be coming from a space of disappointment and hurt and upset and past experiences, and I don't want to do that. And then and man, Farron, you make bad decisions, so I don't even want to make any more decisions because I'm just gonna mess up.
Imagine, just humor me, if instead of scolding ourselves and others for having expectations or making assumptions, that we approach those moments with understanding and curiosity. Who doesn't love Curious George? Okay.
My favorite.
Be curious. Instead of dismissing those responses, ask yourself those questions that I talked about before. Where is this coming from? What experience or fear is driving the reaction, and how can we better understand each other right now? Expectations and assumptions, for me, they don't have to be viewed as inherently bad. And in fact, I can think of a lot of times when they've been good. But they are natural parts of being human, and they're shaped by our history, our experiences, our trauma, how we view the world, all of those things. What really matters is how we respond to them. And I think it's important to focus on that communication, empathy, and a desire to understand rather than to chastise. I think that's what's most important for me. Imagine what imagine what it would be like if we met these moments not with warnings and judgment, but with openness and care and compassion. It just, to me, that's a step in the right direction.
I think expectations really can destroy. They do destroy relationships. I think expectations, especially the unspoken ones, because I may have a understanding or what I expect about a relationship that you should already know. You should already know what to do in that situation, and I expect that, and then you don't do that. But we've been together for 10 years now, and you still haven't read my mind.
If you I used to say that, in fact, I can think of, oof, I don't like this.
Mm.
Um So I can think of a couple times. I am a very vocal person. I am a person that will naturally tell you what's going on in my mind, in my world, in my heart. Uh and I've sort of always been that way. A little naive, a little like I'll just tell it to whoever. Um and so my assumption that is a dangerous one to have is that as I'm talking that people are actually listening.
Mm.
So I can think of a couple friendships that ended for me when I would when they would behave in a way or act in a way that was completely against who I've shared with them that I am. But here I've assumed that they've listened to that, but they haven't. I assumed it. And my response was, well, if you really knew me, you know? And so I understand looking back how I sort of am processing that literally right now. Thank you so much. Is that assumption that they didn't need to hear it again, or that they didn't need to hear it from me personally, one-on-one in a conversation, that they didn't need to have a conversation about that. And me just drawing that line in the sand and going, well, if you knew me, then you would know that, and we're done. You know,
If you don't know me by now.
because regardless of who was right, wrong, or indifferent in those situations, I always have to go back and look at what my role was in either the cultivating or ending of a relationship. And I had a habit of saying that before, that exact line a couple of times. Because and again, if we pause, I'm not excusing me saying that at all. As I said, as I'm reflecting right now, I'm looking back and realizing that it did not serve me to say that.
Yeah.
But I also can go, okay, when someone does say that, where is that coming from?
Exactly.
How often have they said their truth over and over and over again and not been listened to or heard?
Not been heard. And we do that to our children. And if we tell the truth, our parents may have done that to us from our perspective or our perception. And so that's how we live. But my parents did it to me silently. So that's how I'm gonna treat my children. And it doesn't work anymore. But two things you said for me is when you said understand, my skin just cringed like, because for me, I use relatedness. And I believe as people, again, we're human beings, men and women, we all have the same concerns and worries and stressors, and we all have the same emotional state, and we just respond to them differently.
Right.
Our cultures respond to life differently. But if you're willing to relate to another person, it allows for more conversations to happen. Sometimes we use understanding like a fork, like a line in the sand, as you said. We use understanding as a line in the sand. And so if you don't understand me, then I'm done with you and I don't want to blah, and then we're done. But if I relate to you, I have to be in the space where I relate to myself. I don't understand Farron. So why would I put that much pressure on you to understand me when I can tell you the truth that I don't understand me? But if I could relate to you, relatedness allows us to further. Let me ask some more questions. Well, why do you think like that? Where did that come from? I know where mine came from. Where did yours come from? And then really listen to that person actively, like, well, no wonder you think like, because if I was given your same circumstances and situations and concerns, I would probably act the same way. Which is a way that we could communicate. Now we're talking. Now we're going back and forth, and we're listening. And what are you sure you want to live like that still? Are you sure you want to go down that road? Maybe there could be something else. I'm not trying to change you, but maybe there's something that's could give you another level of freedom in your life that you may not be willing to take a look because it might go against what your friends believe.
Right.
And so we think that having a small circle of friends is cool, But what is that small circle designed from? Protecting myself? When we want to be in the community, when we want to have friends, like it doesn't align.
Right.
But if we just listen to people, we say everything that we're dealing with out of our mouth. If we really listen. And sometimes people describe it because if I tell you what's so, then you might not like me. Then my belonging is gone. And it's just a flaw. It's a human flaw.
Right. Any final thoughts about expectations before we give our overview of
negotiate them? In the space of relatedness, you can negotiate, ask questions, talk about it, bring it up. If the person's not doing what you expect them to do, find out. Maybe you have to say what you expect. Because if you give me an opportunity to know what your unspoken expectations is, then maybe I have a right to not even maybe want to hang out with you now, because if you expect that kind of thing and I can't live up to that, so then maybe we don't have a breakup or something devastating that happened to the relationship. Maybe we just be honest and you know what, if that's what you expect from me, I can't live up to that. I'm not healed enough for that. So either we can negotiate that, or is it like you're drop dead, this is what you expect and that's it. But have that conversation ahead of time, not 20 years into the relationship, not 10 years, not 5 years with you. And then you got to listen to the person, and maybe you might hear that, you know what, maybe we should just be friends and cool, because I can't live up to that. If that's something that you truly expect from life, I'm not gonna. I don't even want to put myself in that situation, and I have that right to say that. Doesn't mean I don't care about you. I don't want to be your friend. None of that. But now we talk about boundaries. We talk about situations. We talk about how do I keep my peace, and I may not be able to live up to your expectations, which is fine. But is it negotiable? How many days do you need long walks in the park? You expect me to go walking in the park with you? Okay, so let's negotiate that expectation. Is it once a week? Is it once a month? Is it every day? Because I can't live up to that.
My husband needs to know what season am I referring to, because he's cold all the time. And he's like, because if you're talking about the winter, I'm out. Oh, that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would say for me, choose to be willing to communicate. Choose to be willing to communicate. And then the other part of this, I think that's the most important for me, is not to release expectations, but to release your attachment to the outcome of your expectations. Expectations can be good if you release the attachment to the outcome. And sometimes that's hard. I'm not here to tell you that it's easy. But one thing that is really hard is when we have to go to break real quick. We're going to come right back and we're going to give a little overview of season 2 and tell you what you can expect for season 3. Here we go.
Definitely expect.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
The brand new The Breakthrough Show Network.com has been redone. It's looking lovely. You can go there and vote for some of our awards that are coming up in December. And we know how important voting is, boys and girls. And you can you can also go there to learn about the upcoming documentary, The Friendship Paradox, which we've been talking about this evening as well. So go and check that out. TheBreakthroughShowNetwork.com. This has been a really enjoyable season for me. Really deep. I agree with the commentary that you have shared before about this really being a space where you can be yourself and express yourself and explore topics that you might not explore with someone else otherwise. Sometimes we're stepping out of that space of fear and into let's just go.
What's gonna happen?
I've really enjoyed it, and we started it out this season with a bang. Talking, we had 4 weeks of talking about grief, and that's a tough topic for both of us. Do you have any main takeaways from that segment?
God heals his people temporarily and permanently. And I live from that now. That gave me peace, because we only have an opinion about when, where, why, or how people die. And so I had to figure out in my grief journey, where's my peace going to come from? It's going to come from what Farron says about grief, what the world says about grief, or what God has to say about grief. And between those three, God's was the best. So I choose to follow his. Death is a celebration. This is just a temporary place that we get to come and discover why we're here, share those messages, and write our lives on the hearts of people.
And the truth is that you get to choose that. You get to choose that concept that death is a celebration, whether you consider yourself to be a spiritual person or a person of faith or not. You still get to choose that. And I think we had some really amazing conversation around grief. And I feel like it was such a healing space for people over those, 4 episodes where again, we kind of took the judgment off the table. Anything that you're experiencing around grief is very real and valid. But again, it comes down to choice, how you want to move. Do you want to move forward with the grief, or do you want to just stay stuck in it?
And sometimes the great place to look if you're stuck is around resentment and regret. That's like the perfect spot to look. And that grief conversation is what resentment or regrets that you're carrying in your life. And that might help sort out some of that freedom of your grief. And I know from my dad, my mind tried to hold on to one last bit of that resentment and regret, was I didn't talk to him before he passed away. And it took me 2.5 years to get through that phase of that, to realize that when I found his cell phone, when we found his body 4 days later, and I found his cell phone and I looked at the calls incoming and outgoing, he had already passed sometime on Friday. So regardless if I would have called Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, he wasn't going to answer the phone.
Right.
So can I carry that? No, I can't carry that. He wasn't going to answer the phone. He was already gone.
Mm.
And
And
I
some
had
of
to talk to myself about that, to myself.
right. We never know, you know, when that last moment will be. And I think circling back even to what we've been talking about regarding communication and a willingness to communicate, if we have that willingness and we just allow ourselves to share, especially with the people that we love the most, that we're closest to in our lives, you're going to minimize you're going to minimize the amount of regret that you have, you know, in these grief situations. Again, not to say that there won't be any,
Yeah.
but you do have a little bit of an element of lessening it if you choose to communicate like we've been talking about.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
we moved on. Our next series was about forgiveness and compassion.
Hmm.
This was an important one for me because we've had this conversation about what we really a lot of self-forgiveness that needs to happen. And that's one thing that I've been very committed to for myself, especially in recent years, is forgiving myself for a lot of things. Um, but also, it was the first time that I had really publicly shared about my lifestyle as a vegan. I had mentioned it before, but I had never spoke about compassion in the way that I did during that time. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because it also tied into something that happened to me earlier this evening. And this is why I think that these conversations are still really important. Um, I spoke to an old friend earlier tonight that I went to high school with, and he had shared a picture of something he was going to cook for the evening. And I was like, "Well, I wouldn't, but you do you, boo." Like, you know, kind of thing. Uh, because it was like a big steak or something like that. And, and in and then when he came back and asked me, you know, "Oh, you don't eat meat now?" Instead of just saying, "No, I don't. I haven't since 2017," or whatever, I went into this absolute word vomit about all of the reasons why. Not anything like to try to convince or anything like that, but because so tying it into what we were talking about how people communicate and how they respond to things, because I've been in so many situations where when I start to talk about it, people make fun of me or they get angry. Why the hell are you worried about what I'm eating, first of all, or what I'm not eating? But that's none of my business. But because that's the reaction that I had gotten in the past, my response was like oh, I need to just, you know,
Defend
go into
myself
it.
almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was such a great moment to think back on when it was such a pivotal moment for me to really speak about it from that perspective. I've talked about it before on Project Joy about like, oh, you know, it's National Avocado Day, and as a vegan, I love me some avocados or whatever the hell it is, you know, but never been able to speak to it through the lens of compassion and for the animals. And I really just I thank you for being open during that conversation and allowing me to share from that space. And it tied beautifully into my experience this evening and our expectations and assumptions topic as well.
Really?
So it just worked out.
Really?
Worked out. But I loved that conversation for those two reasons, because of how much that I've worked on forgiving myself. Especially I'm still working on it. But then also being able to speak openly about my lifestyle through the lens of compassion, I thought was great for me too. So what were your thoughts about that series?
I mean, my whole healing journey from the last 14 years started out with that self-forgiveness, taking responsibility for my actions and my behavior, and forgiving myself. I'm at 40 years old of that 5-year-old decision that a 5-year-old made that I've been living from for 35 years. You know, from an 8-year-old decision that I've been living for 38 years, from a 2-year-old decision. I found all these decisions that I made about myself at those young ages, and then I found myself living from those decisions in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. Well, it was 40 when I started. And to go back and look at it like, you know what, man, I'm living from a 5-year-old decision that my dad don't love me. I'm living from an 8-year-old decision that my mom abandoned me. That my first girlfriend broke my heart and I'm never going to be vulnerable again. Like all these decisions that I made that no one told me those. I made those. My mind made those up. Nobody told me that. And I could tell the truth. So self-forgiveness allowed me to go through my own journey with confidence and strength and courage and compassion for myself. And the same thing that I want to give people compassion, but I'm not giving it to myself first. And how important self-love really is. How important self-esteem, self-affirmation, self-worth. That's all tied to our own self-forgiveness first. Nobody can fill that void.
Yep.
Nobody can fill that void. And if they do, it's temporarily. And when they don't do it no more, then I expect you to fill that void. And now you're not. So now you're not the one. And then now I'm moving on. But I'm destroying relationships. I'm also destroying my own self.
So Christy brings that up in the documentary too. Just wait.
Sorry.
So it's so good.
And for some of us, we wait for that other person to come to us to ask for forgiveness from us first. They should come to me. I'm not going to ask them for no. They should come to me first. What is that? Right. Yeah. So that's forgiveness, and it's really for you. It gives that other person the opportunity to self-examine themselves with that space of forgiveness. If you go to them first and acknowledge your behavior. And then and it doesn't make everything okay. Yeah, people forgave me and told me don't call me no more.
There's that too. Yeah.
My own daughter, my own child told me, I forgive you, Dad, but I'll talk to you on my terms. Yeah. Now that's from my own child. That as a father, I have to respect. I have to respect
rough. It's not again, nobody's saying that any of this is like easy or fun.
No, I'm talking to you from my life. Everything I talk about this show is from my life. Not about my life, but from my life. And I respect her for what she said. She forgave me. So now she's got to look in the mirror every day and figure out what that is for her. Because she's like me. So now she's in her own healing journey. But she could never say that her father didn't ask for forgiveness. And sometimes that's just enough to plant that seed. And somebody else gets to water that, not me.
Right. So we moved from grief into forgiveness and compassion. And then we started our final series talking about resilience. But then halfway through, we decided that resilience was not it.
So sometimes we don't bounce back.
And we switched from resilience to the word perseverance. And I really enjoyed how empowered we were to do that in the middle of that series.
That's right. This is our show, our conversation. We accept your offers too, though.
It reminds me of the movie Hustle and Flow with Terrence Howard, and he goes, I'm in charge, and she's like, I'm in charge, and I'm like, that's what we
we had a whole discussion behind the scenes. You don't even know.
We did. But I really enjoyed that discussion because I think, we mentioned the election during the show tonight. We mentioned a lot of the stuff that's been going on as we move forward. I think that's the question. Do we talked about resilience being more of an energy of bouncing back, whereas perseverance is taking your lessons and moving forward with it. I think I personally, I want to move forward. I want to continue to go and not necessarily bounce back, though I do believe that, as we talked about, history repeats itself, and sometimes it is valuable to keep an eye, but move forward.
Yeah. And
Persevere.
again, for human beings, we use that word resilience
Mm.
like a badge of honor.
We put it right on with gold sparkles.
Mm. Yet we're pretending in some aspect of that, because what happens in resilience is maybe it's not fun anymore. Maybe what you started out as a project or a conversation or something that you're taking on, and the life happens, and now it's not fun anymore, and we get stuck in the reasons why we're doing it even, and then we're like, okay, well, I got to be resilient and bounce back. And it's like, come on, really? It's all in language. I realized in that conversation, I had been doing some stuff that I didn't want to do, but I was doing it anyway. That's my new definition of failure that I learned. Failure is doing what you don't want to do, but doing it anyway. And then you're blaming the outcomes because you're not even really interested in it anyway, and you don't know how to just complete it and be like, okay, but I made it up. Everything I'm doing today, even with this show, I agreed to do this show. We made it up. Why would I beat myself up for Beyond 2D when I'm the one that put myself in that conversation? Remove yourself in those things if you don't want to, but you got to understand that there may be some consequences. There may be some unforeseen consequences. Are you willing to take responsibility for changing your mind?
That's what I was going to say. It ties in beautifully to the topic of personal responsibility.
Mhm.
If you're hanging on to stuff that once was just because, and you don't want to do it anymore, then you can't blame anybody but yourself, but sticking around and continuing it. That's
Yeah.
it.
What a season.
It was great.
Mhm.
It was really great. And in honor of this evening's topic of expectations, would you all like to hear what you might be able to expect in season 3? First of all, drop us some hearts or some party or some excited emojis down in the comments if you'd like to hear what we're going to be up to. First of all, most important business here is that the show will be returning for season 3 on Tuesday, February 11th. Tuesday, February 11th. Put it in your calendars now.
I'm going to turn my mic off.
Tuesday, February 11th. All right.
And why is it that week?
Well, first of all of my shows always come back in February around my birthday. So we'll be right after my birthday, boys and girls. And then our first topic of 2025 is going to be L is for the way you look at me.
I'm out of here.
We're going to talk about love, everybody.
She's going to talk about love. I'm not talking about love.
Yeah, but fun fact, that was actually supposed to be our first ever topic of the show. But then because the date had to be moved and we were going to be starting in March or something, we changed everything around. So this has been a long time coming. This was supposed to be the very first topic. So we're talking about love in February and March. And then because the people wanted it and you said it, we're going to be talking about choices and decisions. Because you get those.
That's
exciting, you guys. You get those. You get choices.
You do.
Every single day.
Freedom and choice. There's so much freedom.
There is. So that's your first. That's February, March, April, May. So February, March, April, May. That's going to be it. We're going to talk about love, and we're going to talk about choices and decisions.
Do we really have to talk about love?
Yes.
Maybe by
Because
February
I know
I'll be in a new. I'll be in a different space.
you will, because that's love month. Valentine's Day.
Whatever.
It's going to be fun.
Whatever.
Listen, if you can't even get on board, just lean into a little Miley. I could buy myself flowers. Okay, buy yourself some flowers or something.
I was trying to think about a Bruno Mars verse, but I can't come up with it right now.
See,
yes,
Brittany says
Brittany, where my fellas at?
You need to work on.
Where my fellas at? I got no gentlemen in the comments, bro.
Okay,
y'all
boys and
leaving
girls,
me.
from now until February 11th, what I need you to do is go find Farron some people that can come out here in the audience and help him
Create
out.
this space. We got this space right here, fellas. They watch it on the rerun. That's why they like, oh, we didn't want to make comments publicly.
You know what's fun? That song, and it happened in February too. LOVE by Nat King Cole. My great grandfather loved that song. He loved Nat King Cole, period. But he loved that song. And I was scheduled to go out to dinner with my two girlfriends, Sarah and Beth, because we all shared the same birthday in February.
Mm.
And that morning, my great grandfather passed away.
Mm.
And I still wanted to go out and be with my friends because that's what I really needed.
Mm-hmm.
And we went over here to a restaurant overlooking the Long Island Sound called Lighthouse Inn in New London, Connecticut. And it's still there for any folks that are in the area. We went over there for dinner, and there was this band playing. And I went up and I said, could you play LOVE by Nat King Cole for me? And they said, well, we'll play it, but y'all have to sing it. So they invited us for our 17th birthday.
Wow.
To go up there and sing with the band LOVE by Nat King Cole. And it on the day that my grandfather passed away.
Wow.
And it was like, talk about a love experience, man, like, and grief and communicating what you want and celebrating and all of these things that we've talked about being in that one moment. And so there's moments like that make me very excited to talk about this topic of love. And I know that you'll come to the table with all of your knowledge and expertise. And it's going to be great. I'm building you up here, sir.
How do I swallow the key if I already zipped it? I don't know. What am I going to do with this key?
Nope, you're going to come with bells on and you're going to be very excited. And because listen, don't let him fool you. I've heard him talk about love. And so we're going to.
Have you heard me talk from it, though? I can talk about it all day. But have you heard me talk from it?
That's the question.
February. We going to see.
February.
Yeah, no, it's a good topic.
Thank you, Farron, for an amazing season 2.
Thank you for all of this platform, for the space for us to self-express ourselves. I think that's what most people need. That I think we need a space, and a lot of times we can't even do it with our own families, where we really want to have those conversations, those hard conversations with our family. We really want those moms and dads, but we have to create the space, the safe space for that to happen. And we pray that you take some of these conversations and plant some seeds in there.
Yeah.
That's all.
100%. Join us Tuesday, February 11th. Save the date. We're talking about love beyond TV.
We gotta go 6. We gotta go 70 for love, because I don't even know. Can we invite some guests in that show for this?
Yeah, maybe we'll have some fun guests. Maybe, I think it'll be
take some of the pressure off.
I actually I have someone Yeah.
Really?
I have someone in mind now that I'm just thinking about it because I think it will
love
help in
doctor.
some of our translation of the word, if you will.
I'm gonna
So
find me a male. I'm gonna find me a male friend of the love. Who's the love doctor?
we're gonna have some experts for you,
Yes,
and
see
we're gonna have
that
some
right
experts
there. That's
for
what
you
that's what
in
that's
season
what,
3.
that's what I need. I need an expert.
Love it. I
I
love
need
it.
an
Thank
expert.
you again. I want to thank everybody also who hung with us, who's been hanging with us from the beginning of some of these really tough topics since
Whew.
season 1. We're excited to grab you up in a big hug and bring you on to season 3 with us. We appreciate you. Thank you again, Farron. And we're gonna, as we go out, speaking of love, I'm gonna play Dorothy O'Shea's For a Love poem, and
Oh.
then we'll see you in the new year, everybody.
Oh,
That's it. Good night. Have a good one, and we'll see you later.
thank
Bye.
you. Peace out.
I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart. I shall stand for love, for the world is wounded, not just my little piece of land, where I am mostly safe, where I am mostly well, but our world, everywhere, every day. I shall stand for love, because we need more light, not more death, not more power, not more bombs. I shall stand for love, so that our children are safe, so that our friends are sheltered, so that our borders are open. I shall stand for love, even with a broken soul, even with a heavy heart.